Take me back to the place I know, with the mystery shack and the forest gnomes. I'm already packed, so come on, let's go. Don't get me started, my heart's in Gravity Falls.
Welcome to Mystery Shack Look Back, a nostalgic time capsule, and no spoiler book club, of the original Gravity Falls fandom. We are your curators. I'm Charlie.
Yes, I'm Ella.
So, Ella.
Yes.
Today we have a tour planned for the episode Little Gift Shop of Horrors.
That's right. This podcast is sort of an audio-based museum of Gravity Falls and its fandom, and this episode's exhibit, if you will, is the episode Little Gift Shop of Horrors.
The 6th episode of Season 2 of Gravity Falls and the 26th episode overall. It actually premiered October 4th, 2014 on the Disney Channel Halloween programming. They really wanted that on their main network. It was directed by Steven Sandoval, written by Shion Takeuchi, Matt Chapman, Alex Hirsch, and Zach Paez. But first, actually, there was something I would like to get to.
Oh, yeah? What could it be?
Yeah, we actually, on our email, mysteryshacklookback@gmail.com.
The mail's here?
We received a review of our sock opera exhibit from one of the listeners that went on that tour.
I mean, truly, we can't really, in fact, legally, it's in their contract, can't talk about sock opera without bringing in the docent who was on duty at the museum that day.
Yeah, so let's bring in Abby Kirby. Can you page her?
Yes, why don't I do that now? Let's see. Here we go. Abby, would you please come to the curator's office? We have some mail that we think we all need to look at together.
Mail time!
Yes.
So this one comes from Kitty, she, her. The subject was Faustian Phantom Socks. And it says, "Hey y'all, I adored the sock opera episode, but I can't help but have one of those yelling at my phone about references moments. I love the parallels you drew between the episode and the Myth of Faust, and then delighted with the Phantom of the Opera bits with the cake chandelier concept.
But what you're missing is, I think, a crucial addition. The 1974 cult delight, Phantom of the Paradise specifically. Not only is it a then-modern retelling of Phantom of the Opera, but the plot revolves around a rock opera to tell the myth of Faust.
As a bit of a double whammy, it'd be fun to dig into the parallels between Bill and the villain Swan, and the parallel of Gideon pursuing Mabel, the way Swan goes after Phoenix.
If you haven't seen this adaptation, I absolutely recommend it. Musical horror comedy seems to be very up your alley. Can't wait to jump into all of the linked material this week.
Also, I apologize if you did actually mention Phantom of the Paradise. We did not, because I confess I hyper-focused blacked out to write this email.
Understandable.
Cryptically yours, Kitty, she, her. So, no, none of the three of us have seen, surprisingly.
Yeah. I mean, first off, thank you for reaching out, Kitty. Thank you for sending us that email at mysteryshacklookback@gmail.com. But
I guess, yeah, let's
get into Phantom of the Paradise. Yeah, let's go watch it.
I'm Edgar Wright, and today we're going to look at a very, very favorite film of mine, Brian De Palma's Phantom of the Paradise.
Okay, so
that's the best movie ever, I think. Kitty, you might have just, saved all of our lives here. You might have just, rocked our worlds, blown our minds, opened our other orifices, and just...
Abby, what did you think of that movie?
That is the kind of movie where I'm disappointed I haven't seen it or even heard of it before.
Yeah, we joked that Abby's whole career was about cataloging the Faust, Phantom of the Opera, and Muppet references in sock opera, and here is a musical composed by the person who did the songs for the Muppet movie and Muppet Christmas Carol, Paul Williams, that is a crossover between Faust and Phantom of the Opera.
So there's already off the bat, the writer of The Rainbow Connection plays the villain in this film, and also wrote the songs, and you can tell. And on top of that, this film is directed by Brian De Palma, the director of Carrie, which is one of my favorite movies ever, as well as Scarface and Wise Guys, which is one of Charlie's
Wise Guys
favorite
is
movies.
really underrated comedy. It's just the most New Jersey movie ever made. Danny DeVito stars, of course. Captain Lou Albano from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show accidentally proved to the Super Mario Bros. Super Show he could act because he's amazing in that film.
And, like, he, De Palma's associated mostly with Carrie and Scarface, these kind of horror, thriller, drama things. But Wise Guys shows he does comedy really well, and this is kind of all of both.
As well as he did a lot of, exploitation films before he did Carrie.
Right, which are very campy. And this is kind of all of those things all melded into one, which is another thing that we love, like Kitty accurately pointed out, musical horror comedy. We love
Little Shop. We love Reefer Madness, the movie musical.
We love musicals and horror films and comedies, and also we love musical horror comedies.
Abby, do you want to speak on parallels between Bill and Swan and parallels between Gideon and Swan?
Oh, there's so much I could talk about. I mean, the parallels between Bill and Swan are definitely there. That you have Swan as kind of this almost goofy but suave character, who, as we mentioned in the Hall of Conspiracies in that episode, definitely seems to have like some sort of transactional way of going about life, and then sort of his relationship to the character of Phoenix mimics Gideon's sort of relationship to Mabel in definitely some ways that he is pursuing her, but I think she's a little bit more into it than Mabel was ever into Gideon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because also Swan and by extension Bill are better at trickery than Gideon. Gideon gets away with it mostly because he lives in Gravity Falls, I think.
I also just adore Paul Williams, who I said looks like if Elton John was a hobo, is kind of the look he always has. I adore him in this role. He's so good at creepy and so good at campy.
And it is fascinating that we made connections to Faust and Phantom of the Opera with sock opera, but here is this movie that existed and we did not know about it, and I think the way I described it during was like, if, Faust makes the deal with the devil and then turns into the Phantom after, like, the deal goes bad.
And I would recommend it to anyone who likes Rocky Horror or doesn't like Rocky Horror and likes the Shadowcasts, and anyone who likes De Palma's other work, anyone who likes Paul Williams' other work. If you've ever listened to Rainbow Connection and smiled, I would recommend it to people who like Little Shop of Horrors.
It's got everything. It's got gender, murder, lesbians.
Yeah, it turned us all into Stefan.
Yeah, it really did. It really, really did. It's the best movie. That's what I came away with.
I love this movie because it fulfills a dream I've had for a very long time as somebody who, within studying fandom and pop culture, also has an English degree and teaches English. This is like the perfect intertext movie, because I feel like unless you know the Faust legend, unless you know Phantom of the Opera, and there's so many other literary texts in there that we were kind of calling out. There's some Edgar Allan Poe in there. There's Cask of Amontillado.
Yep.
I was definitely thinking that I was like seeing some references to Telltale Heart and The Raven. Frankenstein's in there.
Definitely The Raven, yeah. The Raven is the company's logo.
And we've also got the picture of Dorian Gray, and there might even have been a few that I didn't even notice because I was enjoying the movie so much.
It is shot like, De Palma's style of directing comes out with these long shots that take that have so many moving parts to set up. And like we kind of talked about, the thing that Jordan Peele has said, that horror and comedy are like just the same emotional effect. They do that a lot. Yeah,
they're the same genre because there is only one genre that is entirely based on timing and surprise.
So as much as I do want to, I on the one hand I want to gush about all the specifics, but on the other hand, number one, we have another thing to talk about today, and we're probably just going to do our own podcast about this separately. But also, see it for yourself.
Please. If you are
check it
listening
out.
to this,
Like,
just watch The Phantom of the Paradise. Do yourself a favor.
Kitty, we are indebted to you, Kitty.
In a Faustian way.
In a Faustian way, yes.
You have our blood on a contract.
You have our souls now, immortally. So, like,
All right, we can't get too much onto this because not only do we have a full tour to do today, but we have another.
oh, another letter, another listener mail.
This is an iTunes review by Gravity Falls Rules, which is for 2 stars out of 5.
Yeah, it's a 2-star review. It is entitled "Please Try to Make Season 3," and it reads as follows: "If you could do anything to help make a Season 3 of Gravity Falls, that would really change my life. I will give you a 5-star review, and I really just want in Season 3, because that show is full of adventure, and the show inspires me to believe in things like aliens and UFOs, and sea creatures, and hidden supernatural creatures, just like in the show."
It's funny and mysterious, and I like stuff like that. So if you could help make a season 3 with Alex Hirsch, Kristen Schaal, and Jason Ritter, that would make me the happiest person on earth. So please try to help. Winky emoji. Hey, Abby, just out of curiosity, have you ever seen a YouTube video entitled Full Comic Gravity Falls Season 3 Sorta, Gravity Falls Comic Dub, Gravity Falls Lost Legends?
I have.
Oh, who made that again?
I believe that would be you.
And who worked on, who did some voices, music produced, voice directed.
Ella.
So that video has 2.5 million views at the time we are recording this. So if you look up Gravity Falls Season 3, that's the first result. We did indeed make that.
We did make that years before we made this podcast.
Heavy spoilers if anyone wants to check it out. So
Yes.
please,
Yes,
it takes place post-series. But yeah, it is a full audio and motion version of the official graphic novel that Alex
For
Hirsch
Gravity
wrote.
Falls. And the song at the end of that video was produced for that video, but then is our theme song on this podcast.
So there we
that I
go.
wrote.
We made Season 3. Give us 5 stars?
Yeah, there's a few things to unpack with this listener mail. Point A, that's an unfair expectation to put on us. Point B, we fulfilled that expectation.
To the email sender, as a person who professionally studies and teaches about fan works, you gotta lay off the heat. Season 3 of Gravity Falls might not exist, but it's important to remember that just because Season 3 does not exist does not mean that Gravity Falls itself has come to an end. It is built up of all of the thoughts and feelings and responses to the show, both emotional and created, like these fan works as podcasts and really awesome YouTube videos. Keep this thing alive. So there might not be a Season 3, but to me, for many years, there has always been a continuation of Gravity Falls that I see within the stories that other people tell about it.
And also, Gravity Falls YouTuber Valskabum94 said Gravity Falls Lost Legends, the graphic novel we were talking about, was the closest thing to a Season 3 we were ever going to get. So I guess all it would really be missing is...
3 extra stars on an iTunes review?
What I guess all that comic would really be missing to be a proper Season 3 is, voice acting, music, animation. So, done.
Yeah, got that. You know what? Link in the description. Don't watch it if you haven't finished the series, obviously, but...
We're about ready to jump into the episode Little Gift Shop of Horrors. Abby, you're free to take the rest of the day off. Get yourself something nice.
I didn't say that.
Oh. Abby, get back to work. Abby,
okay.
clean the podcast machine.
Thank you, bosses.
So tired of cleaning the podcast machine.
On a spooky Halloween events.
Wait, is this curse ugly or normal ugly?
Gravity Falls is tricking.
Dude, that rocket cart is amazing.
And treating.
Home makeover!
But mostly tricking.
His face is made of nightmares!
Well, your sister's broken.
Because, hey, what's trickier than Gravity Falls on Halloween?
There is nothing here to be afraid.
Seriously, brand new next Monday night at 9 on Disney XD. Trick or treat.
Okay, we just watched Little Gift Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
So much like in the Bottomless Pit episode, the last anthology episode we covered, we're going to discuss general thoughts about the episode, then each individual segment, then Hall of Conspiracies.
Correct.
As we said in that one, this is clearly meant to be like Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons, although this, I think, significantly more so.
Yeah, because it is, I mean, it was...
a Halloween episode.
Yeah, marketed very heavily for Halloween, hence why it premiered on Disney Channel rather than Disney XD. They really wanted it to air in October for their Halloween lineup.
Mm-hmm. That's a similar reason why the Christmas special is the only episode of Invader Zim Season 2 that aired on TV.
That wasn't relegated to Nicktoons?
Sort of.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, so the original title is Tales Designed to Sell My Merchandise. It's said in the episode there's a title card with that title.
It is from the POV of a traveler who has stopped at the Mystery Shack, and Stan is telling these stories. That's Tales from the Crypt. The intro of that show is the POV of someone, like, walking down a staircase or whatever, and then the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, so I like this framing device. It's, quick, short, to the point, you know?
Yeah, give us a good joke of the... Sorry, I was thinking of something funny earlier.
Yeah, I'll play that clip.
Sorry, I was thinking of something funny I heard earlier.
Too many orifices?
Yes, Robert Ryan Corey is an incredibly talented person. He makes the show better and also should probably be in prison.
Yeah, we joked that they asked him, like, hey, we need a design for a creature that just has a lot of orifices.
Well, I joked that he was like, oh, I already drew something like that on the subway ride over.
I have several iterations of this design ready to go.
There's also, the Gravity Falls wiki has it in way more Tolkien words than I do, but the object that allows you to see the eye of Sauron.
Yeah, that's when, right before Stan tells the first story of the three.
Hands off! No, seriously, hands off. That's not for sale.
Which, the title card of Hands Off is very Saul Bass inspired. He is a famous movie poster designer with this very angular style. If you look him up and compare it to the title card of Hands Off, they definitely captured that. A lot of
Hitchcock and Kubrick.
Yeah, and as well as the title sequences, not just posters, but yeah.
I love this one. It's similar to the one we had with Stan getting the cursed in truth teeth, but there he just didn't react to it at all.
He didn't realize he was cursed.
Or he didn't
Here
care.
He knows very well that he's cursed.
Yeah, here he knows and does not intend to lift the curse.
Because doing so would require him to apologize to someone.
And that someone is the Hand Witch.
Is it accurate to say your favorite character in Gravity Falls, or your favorite
Yes, she is my favorite character in Gravity Falls. Briefly, I had a Gravity Falls side blog. I didn't use it much, but it was just the Hand Witch's Cave, was the URL.
Yeah.
She is voiced by Matt Chapman, doing your stereotypical witch voice, similar to Margaret Hamilton as the Wicked Witch of the West, or June Foray as Witch Hazel.
They are not for sale! Not for you, Stan Pines! The wind whispers your name!
But, this particular part of Matt's register brings to mind two things from Homestar Runner. One, the Blue Laser Commander from the Cheat Commandos shorts, which is his impression of the Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe and Starscream from Transformers.
Yep.
The cheat commandos will never find our desert headquarters! Since we relocated to my Nana's backyard!
And then, of course, there is Matt doing girl voices, is the main attraction of Teen Girl Squad, and it is also a very similar voice.
Okay, gals and gal-related girls, we fit to look so good!
And we just get the most Matt Chapman delivery the show has ever had.
Yeah, when they redecorate the Hand Witch's cave and she just goes, "Wah!" Like, just a noise. Very Matt.
As well as Stan struggling to exist with these fake fingers that Mabel has constructed him.
Mabel, sweetie, will you make your uncle some hands?
Is also the subject of a Strong Bad email, the one titled Fingers, where Strong Bad, getting complaints about how confusing it is that he types with boxing gloves on, does the same.
Fake fingers, Ellie. Looks like you got some type of a prawn on there. Yeah. Maybe a little leg? Yep. Oh, and a candle. That's a good one. Yeah, I think that's my best one. You know, Keeps me warm at night.
Yeah, and for much of the episode, Stan would rather live as a fork-fingered monstrosity than apologize to the hand witch for stealing a watch from the swap meet.
And I love female fingers, but do you want to play Toss Me a Dozen Eggs is way funnier than anything he came up with in that.
Hey, Mr. Pines. Should we play Toss Me a Dozen Eggs like we always do?
No, Jimmy, wait! Not today! Not today!
Yes, the implication that every day, every time Stan goes to the grocery store, Jimmy the stock boy plays Toss Me a Dozen Eggs with him, and that's just a thing they do. Brilliant. Love that. Love that for them.
Jimmy is Matt. Handwitch is Matt. At the end, Handwitch pretty blatantly hooks up with a hiker who's just Matt.
Yep. Pretty much.
I said he is turning into what Tress MacNeille is to Futurama.
Yeah, and the swap meet is a good, nice collection of gags with some familiar townspeople. Manly Dan is just making masculine wood carvings. We have
hipster glasses.
Yeah, hipster glasses. We have Tyler's several chimes.
There's one called Who's It's and What's It's. What's It is a common Homestar word. It means poop there.
Yep, McGucket's Who's It's and What's It's. Lazy Susan's baby parts, just parts of baby dolls.
I love the please, when you're watching this episode, please pause at the lettering of Lazy Susan's booth. It is so stylized and perfect.
And the coup de grace, Toby determines wet blankets that he is selling for $10 a pop.
Hey, anyone want to buy a wet blanket? We got a wet blanket for sale!
I can't survive in this market.
As is the tradition with Mystery Shack Look Back at this point, as has already happened in this episode alone, we went on a deep dive about a very specific reference.
Yes, that has almost no relevance to the episode itself.
The Hand Witch's robe is directly copied from the Master's robe from the terrible film made famous by Mystery Science Theater 3000 and directed by a fertilizer salesman. That is right, he makes poop for a living. And this movie. Manos, The Hands of Fate. We watched the original Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode that brought it into the public consciousness last night.
And I gotta say, out of the entire film, I mean, obviously we have our standout star, but other than that, the robe kind of is the best part of the movie.
Yes. And then, of course, what Ella just left unspoken is Torgo, who is the satyr, the goat man that is the henchman to the master, the villain, kind of the Igor type character. In the original draft, he was literally called Igor.
Right, but like he doesn't take crap from his boss.
No, and he just has giant knees for no reason, and he's the only character with a leitmotif.
Anyway, we love him dearly.
He's the world's most perfect goat man.
He is. Yeah, and the sound design of the Hand Witch's hand minions just kind of crawling around is perfectly creepy.
Look at this touching scene!
Then we also close this off with the best, possibly the best Stan line in the whole show.
Well, I learned nothing.
And then we move on to
A Baconings!
where we get to see an appearance of our sister podcast, May May and the Hog.
Ooh, that's a bummer. This is May May and the Hog coming at you on the AM. Whoa! Not sure we can say that on the air. Don't touch that dial, truckers, because the Hog just ate it.
I think May May and the Hog, on AM radio is the best podcast.
Yeah, although AM radio I don't think is the best place for them. Have they heard about Pipe Dream?
I wonder if they have heard about PipeDreamPodcast.com.
That's a great website. You could find all the episodes of Mystery Shack Look Back, as well as other shows like Escape from Walt Disney, Come on Fukapods.
Don't forget How Did This Not Get Me?
Yeah, no, I would never.
I never really, connected with that part of the episode specifically before, but now when Mabel is like, oh, I lost my radio co-host, I'm like, no, say it ain't so. Like, I that's real to me now.
I was about to say, hey, Ella, is this how you felt when, and I'm like, wait, no, we've never separated.
Exactly. That's why it's, it's just fiction. So yeah,
it's not real. It's not real, okay? The train isn't really coming towards the audience.
Oh, thank goodness. In this episode, Dipper attempting to increase his intelligence with a magic mushroom goop, but Waddles accidentally, or maybe intentionally, ingests it and becomes Smart Waddles. Now, Smart Waddles... originally...
Which is a reference to a number of things. Lawnmower Man, Flowers for Algernon, etc., etc., as well as Stephen Hawking, because he is moving around in a wheelchair that is enabling him to speak.
And that automated voice was originally provided by Jad Abumrad, who is a public radio host and the founder of Radiolab, but Alex Hirsch felt that Abumrad's voice wasn't right, and had repeatedly asked Neil deGrasse Tyson, who turned him down repeatedly as well. Tyson eventually changed his mind and lent his voice after the animation had been finished, which is interesting to me as an animator, because Waddles...
there's no lip flaps.
Because Waddles does not move his mouth when he talks, and I was trying to remember how the episode, his light-up wheelchair kind of operated, because I wasn't sure if, how Bill Cipher, for instance, glows on every specific syllable when he speaks.
When they feel like animating that.
Yeah. Waddles' light bright thing just kind of generically flickers. So, yeah, I don't think there was no specific dubbing that Neil deGrasse Tyson really had to do.
Yeah.
Which probably makes sense, because, he's not a voice actor. Well, that's not true. He has done a lot of voiceover for things.
As well as, audiobooks or radio interviews are voiceover.
Yeah, that's true. I take that back. But it is, I
love the idea of Neil deGrasse Tyson's voice being used in a Stephen Hawking reference.
Yeah!
And I also want to point out that after this episode, Alex Hirsch tweeted that it took him a great deal of restraint not to credit him as Squeal deGrasse Tyson. And a similar joke, because Alex, much like us, the thing is, he makes the same joke a lot, too.
Yeah.
Hey.
I know, yeah.
Later, someone asked him what Beardy, the taxidermy buffalo that is in the Gravity Falls offices at Disney TVA, is named. And instead of responding its actual name, Beardy, he responded Neil deGrasse Bison.
I feel like in 2014, Neil deGrasse Tyson was still the cool science guy instead of the guy who ruins movies. Technically, the pig would not actually gain intelligence from a mushroom. Mushrooms do not have the power to give someone more intelligence, actually. I am very smart, as you can see, and I do not enjoy fun.
I love that Dipper and Waddles give Grenda a jetpack that uses just flames to propel it. Like, it's nothing safe.
Yeah. Grenda, in her brief moments of this episode, kind of wins the episode, because she has,
Oh, my kite got stuck in a tree! I hate everything!
And...
an affront against nature!
And then, off-screen, Candy is given a laser gun.
Yes, and is killing her enemies.
Death to my enemies!
I love the destructive power that the two of them have. They are perfect friends for Mabel.
Yeah, they are completely unregulated.
I hope Nikki Yang and Carl Frullo. As we said, the characters are based on what those two are like when they're working in an office together. I hope they're that unhinged.
That chaotic, yeah.
Yeah.
I see why Alex repeatedly asked Neil deGrasse Tyson to do this, because he says the most ridiculous lines in this very serious scientific tone, and he's in a tiny little pig body the whole time.
Yummy, yummy, for my fat little pig tummy. Why dudes have nipples? It's a good thing I built in a dum-dum switch.
Phrasing it, intentionally sillier than even other Gravity Falls pieces of dialogue.
The part about potatoes comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it feels like a
that
Homestar bit that Matt and Mike would write at 2 a.m.
Pretty much. Like, he didn't realize that he enjoyed potatoes so rapturously until after he gained so much
there is
intelligence.
Actually a Strong Bad email that ends with them talking about eating a bunch of potatoes for absolutely no reason.
Oh, excellent.
Where Pet Show ends with Strong Bad saying, "We're currently appealing the judge's decision. We're also currently appealing potatoes!"
It's a second Lord of the Rings reference in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Potatoes!
You can do a lot with those. I was going to say, Why do people call Mabel selfish?
Right. Yeah, this episode where Dipper steals her best friend and refuses to let her best friend hang out with her. Mabel is selfish, and here's why.
Remember those times?
Can we play that song real quick?
Yeah, I think we can.
Remember those times. Don't forget to remember those times. Just remember to remember those times.
So as Rob Renzetti confirmed, all of the season 2 songs had at least one lyric written by Matt Chapman. You can hear it.
This feels like it was all of them, and performed again by Brad Briek, right?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. And it's great. And in the end, Waddles learns to appreciate Mabel and not really value his intelligence so much, and then he doesn't ruin movies anymore.
And also, this is a non-canon episode, so Dipper didn't really learn that lesson.
Yeah, and no one in this episode Stan was right. No one learned anything.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let them know one spoiler, just because this upset me at the time.
Okay.
The hand witch is canon. She lives in Gravity Falls. It's later confirmed. I was worried about that. I'm sure you were as well.
Yeah.
Don't worry, folks. She's real.
And I don't, like, there's nothing in here that, well, one or two things that,
I mean,
necessitate that.
There is the key. The key for the Visionaire cipher.
I know, but there's nothing in here that necessarily demands that you count them as non-canon, except for maybe one thing that we'll talk about in
Clay Day!
So, Clay Day is a parody of Ray Harryhausen's films, the most famous of which being The Clash of the Titans.
Yes, Harry Claymore is a full-on reference to stop-motion animator, filmmaker Ray Harryhausen.
And all of the creatures that he builds are references to various things from the Harryhausen oeuvre.
I don't think he worked in clay. I think he worked more with models, like built on wire, but
yeah, the clay here is done by Stupid Buddy Studios of Robot Chicken fame. It is very good.
It's beautiful work. And
we don't know anything about Ray Harryhausen.
No, we don't. We spent our prep for this watching Manos Hands of Fate.
For that one outfit reference that doesn't otherwise impact into the episode. But it's a whole dang museum. We got docents.
Yeah, why don't we page let's see, who in our payroll would know about the films of Ray Harryhausen.
You know, I think actually Shelby from our podcast about the episode of Gravity Falls Boys Crazy and our bonus episode
about Shion Takeuchi's Inside Job.
Yes, they actually told me that those are some of their favorite movies of all time.
Ah, well, why don't we bring them in?
Shelby, please come to the curator's office.
Hey guys!
Hey,
Shelby!
Hey, you always know how to make an entrance.
I do!
Woo!
So, Shelby, have you ever seen the segment from Gravity Falls Little Gift Shop of Horrors, Clay Day?
Oh yes, Clay Day. I do recall this segment of an episode.
I might have watched a Gravity Falls episode once or twice.
Have you ever watched any films directed by Ray Harryhausen?
I sure have, because when I was in 6th grade, I was obsessed with Greek mythology, which means that I was introduced to Ray Harryhausen by watching Clash of the Titans.
Gotcha.
And then Jason and the Argonauts, two of like my favorite films that exist.
Have you seen any others or just those two over and over?
Just those two over and over, honestly.
That sounds like Shelby. All right, so we've confirmed this is not the thing.
This is not the thing now.
Tell me something only the real Shelby would know. I discovered 2 films I really liked, and instead of checking out the other films by that director, just watch those 2 on loop. All right. Checks out.
I came here to have a good time.
But that is 2 more Harryhausen films than either of us have seen, so,
Really? You haven't seen any?
No, we have neither Ella nor I have ever seen a Ray Harryhausen film.
Oh my gosh.
I'm familiar enough with the iconic scenes and characters to understand what's going on in the episode as far as...
I have released a Kraken from time to time.
You have released a Kraken.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm Davy Jones. That's not Clash of the Titans related.
But I think my understanding of the Harryhausen stuff is very surface, and I'm hoping you can shed some more Light.
Hoping you can shed some light.
I like it.
I was looking for a way to connect that to animation, but
okay.
you got it.
Maybe it'll come to you. If it comes to you later, just shout it out.
I will.
Yeah, so the film that you would want to watch in order to understand this episode...
lights, camera, and action!
Sorry, go on.
All right, that's something. We're getting there.
Yeah, we'll workshop it a little bit.
Yeah.
So yes, as far as Ray Harryhausen's films go, if you wanted to really understand the references in this particular episode, the movie you would want to watch is The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which features both the Cyclops as one of the biggest set pieces in the movie. It's the first monster that you really see. And it also features a skeleton battle that was done with like a clap track. It's really cool because they choreographed it with a choreographer on a clap track. So somebody was clapping out in rhythm so that he knew when to hit stuff. But that's just like the first instance of the skeleton. The most iconic fight in a Ray Harryhausen film is actually the skeleton battle at the end of Jason and the Argonauts.
Oh, so he just kept coming back to that skeleton well.
The skeleton actually shows up a couple of times. So it's one skeleton in Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and then there's a skeleton, I think it's the same skeleton that shows up in another film, and then it's like 6 skeletons in Jason and the Argonauts.
What do you mean the same skeleton?
It's the same skeleton. I don't know.
Are we Pixar theorying Harryhausen?
So that skeleton is to Ray Harryhausen as Johnny Depp is to Tim Burton.
I was going to say, like, the Stan Lee.
Yeah, that skeleton is the Stan Lee of
the Harryhausen cinematic universe.
It's really interesting because in order to animate that fight, not only did he have to like learn the choreography, but he also took fencing lessons so he could better animate it, which is really cool. It took him 3 months to animate the fight scene with the skeleton.
They seem to take a shot at like when you're trying to avoid that level of complicated work. They're like, let's escape by standing still. Like, let's not make more work for the animator by moving around.
Yeah. So, he's a really interesting dude because he actually got his start in his garage with the help of his mom and dad. So he saw the King Kong film with the animation by Willis O'Brien when he was like 10.
Yeah.
Okay, see, that's what I thought in my mind when Dipper is like, look, they're just models, and he holds up the gorilla. I guess I thought that King Kong was Harryhausen.
So King Kong is not Harryhausen. King Kong was Willis O'Brien because that was 1933. Gotcha. Ray Harryhausen was born in 1920.
Okay.
So he would have been a little young to be working on that movie, but he really loved it. So he started working on just like movies himself in his garage, specifically with dinosaurs. And then at some point, he wrote to Willis O'Brien, just like straight up wrote to him and was like, hey, I want to do what you do. So he invited him to the studio and he brought his little dinosaurs with him. And
that makes me sad because you can't do that today. You'll get blacklisted.
You can't do that today, no. So he showed up at the studio and he was like, you're doing good. The dinosaurs' legs kind of look like sausages. And instead of like being like, oh no, my idol doesn't like my work, he was like, okay, no sausage legs, got it. And then he went to art school, and he actually ended up working with Willis O'Brien on later works. So like his earliest... Oh my gosh! I know, it's so cool, isn't it?
And he saw him again at the studio, I was like, hey, sausage legs!
I would love to think of that as how it went down. That sounds amazing.
That's how it would be dramatized in a biopic.
Yes! Hey, sausage legs!
Well, old sausage legs.
The extent to which I understood the references in this is Golden Pants.
Yes.
Is Golden Fleece.
It's the Golden Fleece.
From Jason and the Argonauts.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's about all I got.
And wasn't it like it was the Voyages of Loinclothocles instead of Sinbad?
Yes. So the movie that put him on the map was Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. So that is the first movie, because he did several movies leading up to that with Willis O'Brien. He did Mighty Joe Young, so that might be like the model could be a reference to King Kong, or it could be a reference to Mighty Joe Young.
Oh, is there a gorilla in that? Is Mighty Joe a gorilla?
Yes, it's a movie about a gorilla.
Uh-huh.
I think they made a remake with like Charlize Theron and CGI.
Charlize Theron as the gorilla.
Yes, of course. No, she's like the pretty blonde lady that tames the gorilla. You know, there's always got to be one of them.
So it's just King Kong.
Yes, much smaller gorilla.
Oh,
it's just a
King
regular
Kong with a regular sized gorilla.
King Kong, but boring? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think the part of King Kong that inspired audiences is the sheer size of the gorilla. Like all of tokusatsu, which is Japanese special effects movies, originated when they were like, that's a big gorilla. You think we could do like a dinosaur that size?
It's also kind of in universe. It's like the eighth wonder of the world, a gorilla, but big.
And then Toei invented a legally distinct dinosaur named King Kong. I mean, no, named Godzilla.
Yeah.
That's Japanese for King Kong.
Yes, I believe it. I don't know any other languages other than the one I'm speaking right now.
But you're fantastic.
You are.
Oh, thank you. I think I'm average at it, but I try. So yeah, the way he would film the stuff, they called it Dynamation. That was the way they would market it in movies. They'd be like, this film in Dynamation. So the way that he did it, that was different than what O'Brien did, was O'Brien basically they would film it, and then he would build a little set in front of it, and he would refilm the scenes in front of that on the little sets. What Harryhausen did that was different than that was he skipped the little set. So he would be on set directing the things with like a giant stick with an eyeball on it. So the actors knew what he was going to do. And so he would talk to them about what the scene was going to be. He would hold the little eyeball up so that it was like to scale to where they needed to look.
Yeah, so it's a proto version of, this tennis ball on a string, that's Jar Jar Binks. Talk to that.
It absolutely is.
Oh, okay, slight tangent, but I was curious, so I looked up what the word Kojira, which is Godzilla's Japanese name, actually means in Japanese. That's just white whale.
Oh.
They just straight
it's a
up
different allusion.
they copy pasted Moby Dick. They're like, this isn't King Kong, this is Moby Dick.
That's public domain. But yeah, so O'Brien, you're saying, was basically using like a forced perspective with
Yes. So O'Brien was using
close
forced
to the lens.
Yes. And what Harryhausen was doing was he would go in and he would film it on set with everyone. He would direct everyone in those scenes that he was going to animate. And then he would go back to the studio and he had the projection of what they filmed. And he had a glass screen and he would just create the thing he would create and animate the thing right up against the thing that they had filmed earlier. So it was cheaper and it was easier to do. So he really streamlined how claymation worked in this particular setting.
Yeah, it seems like he added a step, but he also made it less complicated because he doesn't have to do it while the real people are moving.
Yeah. And the one really big thing that people who know Harryhausen, taught Harryhausen, because not only did he take art classes, he also took acting classes. They would see his acting style in the creatures he was animating. So not only was he animating them, he was acting through those characters, and that's
all it is, really.
I know, it's what set his work apart from other people doing similar things.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. And so 1981 is when Clash of the Titans came out. That was his last film. Fun fact, people that cite Ray Harryhausen as inspirations include George Lucas and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Think you can kind of see what their inspirations were, but they actually threw Bubo the Owl into Clash of the Titans to capitalize off of R2-D2.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Shelby, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are also massive fans of Scrooge McDuck comics. Are you telling me that you don't really like Star Wars but have the exact same taste in media as George Lucas?
I absolutely do. Star Wars is okay. I'm here for Indiana Jones, though. That's my jam.
That's two of them working together.
I don't know if George Lucas likes Star Wars.
You know the scene where Luke and Leia are swinging in New Hope, like where they're swinging from one platform to another? That is a shot right out of Sinbad.
Oh, wow.
Like it's straight out of Seventh Voyage of Sinbad.
I don't know if they've since changed this, I don't think they have, but they're playing the holographic chess, and it's a bunch of stop-motion creatures like fighting each other, biting, chomping each other's heads off, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which feels very clear, like, giant stop-motion monsters fighting is kind of his bread and butter.
Yeah, and like one of his most, like his start and his most iconic creatures, besides like the Cyclops, which is like the most loved creature that he made, and the skeletons, which are the ones from his most iconic battle, are the dinosaurs, because he started out making dinosaurs, and then he had a couple of movies about dinosaurs too. Like, I think it's Gwangi and the Valley of Gwangi. So that one's about a dinosaur in like modern times. It's interesting. But you can tell that like the way that the dinosaurs move in Jurassic Park are like inspired by how he animated the dinosaurs. So like you can directly see that these people are taking from what he innovated in the technology that was available to him at that time with new technology.
Yeah.
One last question. At the very end, in the fight that they are glad they are facing towards, we briefly see Medusa.
Yes.
Or like a kind of a scorpion Medusa? Is that a depiction that
So that is a direct reference to Clash of the Titans, because there is both a scorpion battle and a Medusa battle in there. And so they just sort of combined them. Yeah. They actually added the scorpion battle so Ray had more things to do in Clash of the Titans. But he stopped animating of his own accord. He didn't stop because he had to. He stopped because he saw what was coming. He saw the future, and he was like, I'm not really needed anymore. But the other funny thing is, he was in the phone book, and he would like legit just invite people over if they called and said, hey, I love your work. So the fact that they go to his house and he's a recluse.
I mean, at least he's paying it forward. At least, you know, that's how he got his break, so.
Yeah. He's just a nice guy. He was really good and loved what he did.
Yeah, just miss those days when you could just call an idol and just be like, hey, can you teach me how to do this job? And they'd be like, sure. No one else knows who I am.
The Three Stooges all stayed at the same nursing home, and it was just public information which nursing home that was and when the guest hours were. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, no, so there are a lot of entertainers that either called the Three Stooges or visited them. Like people of a certain age, every other comic at one point.
It was
also
a very
weird that he ended
time,
up working with the person who inspired him and then ripping off one of the people that he inspired.
Yeah. Anyway, Shelby, this was absolutely delightful.
Yeah, I learned a lot. That was very fascinating.
If Ella doesn't prevent me from doing this again, I would love to give you the rest of the day off.
Okay.
Yeah, since you taught us so much about a prolific famous animator today, so you know what? Why don't you take the rest of the day off?
Sounds good. I think I'm going to watch Seventh Voyage of Sinbad now.
But clean the podcast machine all the earlier the next morning.
All right, sounds good.
Well, that was very informative.
And you love the jokes here of
yes. Anytime a cartoon makes fun of animation is always great.
Those monsters are just tiny clay figures moved around one frame at a time by an antisocial shut-in.
Those people are called animators.
You know, as much as I don't agree with the stereotype that animators are antisocial shut-ins, it's a great joke.
You used to be.
I used to be. But now I'm not, and I resent that.
Now you remember those times with your podcast co-host.
I won't forget to remember those times. I just gotta remember those times. But the other joke that I love is that Harry Claymore, so the reveal that Harry Claymore's clay characters have come to life and also swore vengeance when CGI became prevalent. Where's the heart is a great line. But he reveals that he used black magic to make them come to life.
You really believe someone moves these figures one frame at a time? I'm not a masochist. I used black magic to make them animate themselves.
Yeah. I'd rather you just take my soul, to be honest. Like...
yeah. Another Faustian bargain, huh?
It's just easier to make them come to life, yeah. So, like, I don't blame the guy.
Oh, and the CG in the newspaper article that they look at is meant to look like really early CG, like the Money for Nothing music video specifically is what it's a reference to. And also, Mabel watches a show that's based on Rainbow Bright. And both the voice of, what is the...
Shimmery Twinkleheart.
Both the voice of Shimmery Twinkleheart and the CG in that frame remind me of something that Matt Chapman later worked on. 2 More Eggs, which were shorts for Disney XD, both the channel and the YouTube channel. And there was one called CG Pals, where all of the characters look like that, and one has a near identical voice.
That's right, because she believed in herself.
Get it, Twinkleheart!
CG doesn't come from a computer. It comes from inside your body.
So Seuss dies in this episode.
Yes. Well, that's also how Scarioki ended. It's a good ending. The reveal that Seuss is now one of the monsters of the week.
Oh, yeah. But here, he, because the clay monster's plan was to transform them into clay creatures, they got Seuss, and Seuss is now Gumby. Seuss says Holy Toledo and shapeshifts into most anything.
And most anything.
Until he is killed by a VCR to the head.
I want to point out that recently my friend Ray and I discovered a Twitter called @GumbyScreens, just spelled like it sounds, and their pinned image made us laugh for an entire 10 minutes.
It's very good.
Please go look at it. Gumby, for those who don't know, if applicable, I just want to provide all the information I can.
Oh, yeah.
Old claymation series from television. It was pretty low budget, which is hard to do in claymation, but if you look at it, they figured out a way.
They did. With the design and the way they move, yeah, it works. I think as disturbing as Stan killing Gumby Seuss is, it is a little sweet that he at least does it to protect the kids. We're safe now, kids. We're safe. And that's kind of an interesting through line with this episode, because, Stan is telling the stories, and 2 of them are about Mabel reconnecting with a friend and getting over her fear. Actually, she does save the day in all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because she initiates the makeover on the Hand Witch's cave as well. Stan, after he finishes telling a Baconings, is like, I'm not gonna sell you the pig, I'm gonna leave him with my niece, and then Mabel off-screen shoots a plunger dart at him, and he says, "No shooting in the house, sweetie." And I'm just like, yeah, he's so sweet to them now. Like, he's not even, annoyed. Like, he's just like, okay, sweetheart.
And Mabel's fear of claymation in this seems to be our final reference to the unused Labyrinth episode. It seems to...
The last dying breath of that script.
Yeah, because the character arc being about a fear of the uncanny.
Yeah, an uncanny special effect that I happen to love.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, it's so good.
Puppets and stop motion, both fantastic.
Oh, yeah, yes. You used puppets in your junior year student film.
In my junior year home funny business. Yeah, you provided the voice of said puppet.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to. I really wanted to. I did not charge you extra because I wanted to do it so bad.
So the ending of this episode, it culminates in Stan drugging the POV character and placing them in a glass box and marketing them as the cheapskate in the gift shop. But originally, this tourist was planned to be revealed to be M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know how that would have worked.
They would not have gotten the clearance to do that.
I don't know how many kids would have gotten it. I don't know how they would have executed it. I don't understand what the intention was.
I think it was just a joke they said in the writer's room and kept laughing at for a while until they actually sat down to write it.
Probably, yeah. But I do wonder if it made it all the way to S&P and they're like, we won't be able to do this. Can you?
I have no idea. I'd love to know.
S&P was like, we can't do this. And so the writers were like, okay, how about this? Stan drugs and knocks out a person and then imprisons them. And they were like...
They're like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Shion, Matt, Alex, Zach, if you're listening to this, please weigh in on to what extent that was supposed to be included.
Yeah, or how that would have gone down. I'm very genuinely curious. Speaking of being curious about things and asking lots of questions and wondering about answers.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen my wallet?
Your wallet?
Yeah.
Why don't you retrace your steps?
Yeah, okay. Let's see.
Where did you last make a transaction?
Let's see. Well, oh, you know what? Let's check the Hall of Conspiracies first. And while we're there, I guess we can talk about some fan theories for this episode.
Yeah. 2 birds, 1 stone. Let's go to the Hall of Conspiracies, look for your wallet, and kill some birds.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, right this way to the Hall of Conspiracy.
Most important point here, found my wallet. It's all good.
I have defeated the legendary rock from the 7 Voyages of Sinbad. Don't worry.
Yes. We get another glimpse of the government agents at the swap meet. Agent Powers walks by as Stan and the kids are walking away from the Hand Witch's booth. You can see him walking in the opposite direction.
And this one comes from the subreddit, and it says it's by Jeremy Pudding.
I could go for some Jeremy Pudding.
Right? It says, Hand Witch seems to be the sister of the Ear Witch in the Grembert story.
You should be grateful! My sister takes hands!
Can guarantee some witch magic is the source of everything weird going on in Gravity Falls. The Grembert story is something from searchfortheblindeye.com, which I think at this point people are believing wasn't Disney affiliated because the date it listed, nothing came out in October of that year.
I think October 1st was the start of this story. We talked about searchfortheblindeye.com way back in Gideon Rises. And at this point, in 2014, there was this, ongoing kind of little snippets of a story about this wizard named Grembert, whose ear got taken by a witch. And, yeah, the dialogue that Charlie quoted seemed to foreshadow the Hand Witch. So, further questions about how affiliated this is with the show? Because that's a very on-point prediction for if it is truly no one connected.
We don't know.
Yeah, but we got a good theory out of it. And my own mother, folks, had a theory. My mother had a theory. That was my mother's fan theory about this episode. Specifically the line where Stan is talking about how great movies are because you scare the girl snuggles up next to you. Next thing you know, you gotta raise a kid, your life falls apart, and she was convinced that that was autobiographical, that he was not just speaking hypothetically, that Stan had an illegitimate child, and she wasn't sure, but she was like, maybe that's Seuss? Maybe Seuss is the illegitimate child of Grunkle Stan, because as we've seen from glimpses of his past, he's clearly very well traveled, could have met a lot of women.
Yes, he's been to Central America before.
It's exactly what she was thinking at the time, and only time will tell. But either way, she was convinced that Stan had some form of child out there, and that he wasn't just,
The credits cryptogram using the Visionaire cipher. The key is non-canon. It is found on the upper left rail planks in Harry Claymore's home, which seems to imply that either that segment or the whole episode is non-canon. Unclear. And it reads, check out Dr. Waddles' latest book, A Brief History of...
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Waddles. And the end card combination cipher, again, affirms to us that all animation is black magic. Which is true.
Anyway, check out Slam Poet.
Yeah, you want to check out Slam Poet and Funny Business?
Just saying. If you want to see some black magic.
That old black magic?
Is Ella's thesis film. I voiced in it.
Yeah.
And helped come up with some of the stuff, like the main character's name, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, some writer collabs.
So this episode was really fun for me, because we actually got to use our docents as actual docents, rather than just like a running podcast joke.
Yeah, we have 2 guests in this episode, but just for segments, which is very fun.
For segments, because they each have respective areas of expertise, like a real museum, and that was one of my goals with this podcast, and that was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
If you want to find more episodes of this podcast, you can go to our host network, pipedreampodcasts.com, where you can find other shows like Escape from Walt Disney, How Did This Not Get Made, and come on Fahuquapods. They have an episode on some of the things I mentioned today, such as Strong Betty Male Fingers.
And while you're there, you can find a link to our Audio Museum's social medias, our Discord server, and our Patreon, patreon.com/Mystery Shack. $3 will get you a shout out at the end of episodes. $5 will get you into viewing parties for the episodes on our Discord. Tonight we will be watching Little Gift Shop of Horrors. And the $40 tier will get you either a voice commission from Charlie or an art commission from myself. Yes.
No, but there's no pressure. If you can just write an iTunes review or
a 5-star iTunes review is required. Yeah.
5-star iTunes review specifically. Or the word of mouth is still alive with podcasts. Tell a friend about the show. Then maybe they might pledge to the Patreon, or someone they introduced to it might pledge to the Patreon.
Or maybe their rich duck uncle will pledge to the Patreon.
As well as, we've already said this, but please join our Discord. It's such a fun little community.
It is. It's a nice little spot. I guess you could call it the cafe attached to the museum.
You can contact us at mysteryshacklookback@gmail.com if you have any thoughts on your fandom experiences that you want to share. Contribute to our museum.
Maybe we'll read them in the mailroom.
And thank you to Brian for making the instrumental for our theme song and for voicing Stan in the Hall of Conspiracies intro. The Hall of Conspiracies intro is a full song. There's a link in the description. Our friend Sim made it. It's a remix of our podcast. It's weird hearing my voice.
Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it to people who haven't listened to the podcast. But yes, it's a great song, even out of context.
Adam, thank you for vanquishing the clay monsters.
Yeah, it's weird that all the spit kind of formed into clay. That's new.
I think they're both moist.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna play us out with this song I wrote.
Speaking of songs, check out Phantom of Paradise.
Oh, yeah, please check out Phantom of the Paradise. That's really the moral of today. If you didn't learn anything else, and yes, we learned nothing, but we learned that you should watch Phantom of the Paradise. Thank you. Take me back to the place I know with the mystery shack and the forest gnomes. I'm already packed, so come on, let's go. Don't get me started. My heart's in Gravity Falls. Oh, hey, Magazine Seuss.
Oh, hey, Key Seuss.
Do you want to give some patron shout-outs with me?
Oh, I love listing things.
All right. Thank you, too. Liz Clark.
Daddy Driftwood.
Daddy Buttons.
Juno Series.
Gwen Prime.
Junior Bra.
Friendly Local Geek.
Fun. Boringness.
Hugh Salinas.
David Gansel.
Ryan Faber.
Stephen Patrick Mulholland. And Oliver Pluto. We are going to use that money to procure snacks.
Send us some more snack procuring money over at patreon.com/Mystery Shack.